Well, let's talk about Project 2025, which is the project that a lot of conservative thinkers had come up with as the playbook for the Trump administration if he were elected, and in particular, the focus on the environment or lack of environmental interests that Trump has.
Right. You know, when Trump was first elected, even he said he didn't think he was going to win. And so it was complete chaos. They were not ready to govern. And it was obvious from the start that that was the case. And it was actually fairly ineffective administration in implementing what he claimed he was going to do. He basically governed by press release. He just put out a press release, and then often he wouldn't actually do the things he said he was going to do. This time is going to be real different. If he is elected, he has a cadre of thousands of right-wing acolytes who have put in place incredibly radical plans to shut down key parts of the U.S. government, like the Department of Education, to give away massive amounts of monies to billionaires, to explode our public debt, to reduce investment in public goods. He is incredibly dangerous now because he could actually do all these radical proposals that are in the Project 2025. And so this is why it's much more dangerous this time. The other thing, of course, is that Trump has talked about weaponizing the criminal justice system, the U.S. Department of Justice, to go after all his political enemies. And so we're in a position where he was not ready to be president the first time. He didn't have a cadre of serious advisors who were going to implement his right-wing radical policies. This time he does. That's why this is so dangerous.
I guess I haven't read as much of the actual implementing document on Project 2025. Is there much in there about the environment?
Yeah, so he says that he wants to shut down huge parts of the U.S. Government environmental regulatory structure, including large parts of EPA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration that you mentioned, and a whole host of other protections on our water, our air. Just as an ideological exercise, he's proposing all those things. And he has said that he wants to do that. The thing is, in the past, he didn't have the cadre of ideological driven professionals to do it, because they didn't think he was going to win either. But this time they're ready. And it could be incredible, the changes that America will see in the protections to the environment if Trump is elected.
Right. One of them would be he has talked about kind of wiping out a bunch of civil servants who've been serving in those roles and just replacing them with political appointees, which would gut kind of the effectiveness of, say, the EPA if they were to wipe out the normal staff, which you can't just fire as a matter of right when you come in as a new president, because there's civil service protections, and he's talking about wiping those off, which would be incredibly
So I
dangerous.
served in the Interior Department as part of the civil service. And there was an unbelievable esprit de corps and commitment to serious work, to factual scientific information underlying major decisions that protect the American people. It's the core of our government, is about 3 million civil servants who do this work every day. And by the way, that system comes out of some specific events of the late 1800s and early 1900s. What happened was, for example, President Garfield in 1881 was murdered by an office seeker. And they realized in that period of time, they replaced the entire government with every new president with political appointees, and it was a disaster. It meant the governments were corrupt, and you couldn't count on the governments. Teddy Roosevelt headed a commission. It's one of the things that made him famous and made him later become president, to put in place a U.S. civil servant service that has been the backbone of a reliable U.S. system of laws and governance for now more than 125 years. And Trump has said that he specifically wants to undermine that system and put in place a bunch of his cronies who will do anything they want and be accountable to no one. It's an unbelievable misunderstanding of the history of the United States economy, our public safety protections, and our government.
Well, there was a fascinating article that Michael Lewis wrote in the Washington Post, I believe, on a civil servant who worked in the Bureau of Mines for, I guess, probably 30 years. And he just dedicated himself to public safety and how to make miners' jobs safer. And, it was brilliantly written. And it was, I think the point was there are just millions of people doing work like this, trying to help their fellow Americans be safer, or to have our economy work. And many of those people are unsung heroes. And it's very easy to kind of bash the federal government, this big behemoth that does no good. But, the truth is that there are lots of people doing incredible work on our behalf.
Well, just, ask yourself a question. When it comes to the safety of the food your children eat, or the air they breathe, or the water they drink, you want Jared Kushner in charge and his cronies, or you want scientists who've been working on this for 20 and 30 years and devoted their entire lives to it? That's really the choice. I mean, do you want a bunch of Trump's cronies to make these decisions? Of course not. That's crazy. It doesn't make any sense for the economy, for our public safety, for our health and well-being. But it's the kind of crazy ideology that Trump is pushing because he thinks it's good grievance culture war politics. I keep going back to that issue because it's the point of the spear for Trump. As long as he believes he can scare people, instill fear in them, create grievances, that's his goal. And I think Harris has been brilliant in creating a much more positive, future-oriented, young-focused vision of where the country's headed. That's why, amazingly, just a few weeks after she was nominated in Chicago, there was polling showing that more Americans thought she was a change candidate, even though she's a sitting vice president, than Donald Trump. And I actually thought that was a very important poll because it showed something, that her vision of a positive future for America's people that emphasizes the middle class, that emphasizes average Americans over the billionaire class, is attractive and working politically. And that's why I think she's probably going to win. I think she's going to drive turnout of people who've been turned off from the system.